So hello everyone, hope you're well. If you don't know me, my name's Steph Adams. I'm the Training and Engagement Manager at P&O Cruises, and I'm joined by our lovely Angie Angelova. We are actually in a room together today. But we are joined as well by a systems expert, and she doesn't like being on camera, but those of you who've been on my webinars before do know that we do like to occasionally turn the camera around and show our behind the scenes hero that is Kirsten Clift. So we are all on hand to take you through these very important changes on Polar Online. So what are we covering this morning? Well, today I'm going to show you a very important change on Polar Online, which is going to help you to capture any of your customers' mobility or accessibility requirements. As ultimately, we want to do everything possible to ensure that our guests have the best experiences on our ships. Now, we are going to go into Polar Online, and I'm going to show you this really important step change. But it's probably a really good idea to explain why we've made this change. And look, recently, there's been instances of guests arriving at the terminal with specific onboard needs that they've not made us at P&O Cruises aware of. Unfortunately, this has then meant those guests were denied boarding. And we needed to basically make sure all of the needs of our guests are taken care of, and we had to ensure that we had the capability to do that. So unfortunately, where they didn't make us aware of those needs, we did have to deny boarding. So to enable this to not happen in the future, and definitely not happen to your customers, we're going to take today to just remind you of that mobility policy and then ask for your assistance in guiding your customers through our requirements. And look, don't worry, it is an easy step on Polar Online. It's just really important that you know that we're doing this. Ultimately, we must make sure everyone is safe on board throughout their cruise, and that does include in the unlikely event of an emergency when your customers, our guests, would have to attend their muster station. We do have an emergency protocol in place to safely evacuate our ships. But to do that, we must know all of our guests' requirements prior to them sailing with us, because we need to make sure we've got sufficient crew in place to support with individual needs. Now, many of you are used to asking your customers when you're making your booking if they've got any additional needs, and then requesting a questionnaire that goes back to our medical team after you've made a booking. But what I'm going to stress to you today is that these requirements must, going forward from today, the 8th of November, be captured prior to pressing that confirm button. And we all love pressing that confirm button, don't we, on those bookings? But we must make sure any specific needs are captured prior to the booking. We will cover what happens to any bookings you've already got made where these requirements will need to be added in a little while. Now, you're probably thinking, but Steph, what specific requirements are you talking about? What do you need me to capture? Well, let me explain. It is vital for our guests to inform us if, in the unlikely event of an emergency, they would need either an evacuation chair or one-to-one assistance. Now, let's talk those two options through. An evacuation chair is a mandatory requirement for any guest who is unable to use the stairs due to mobility or other circumstances. And it's particularly mandatory for anyone bringing a wheelchair or mobility scooter on board. Now, an evacuation chair enables us to safely evacuate guests that maybe that are mobility impaired. They are secured into the evacuation chair and then they're transported from a ship, usually via a stairway during an emergency. So remember, any guests that cannot use the stairs and do either have a wheelchair or mobility scooter, an evacuation chair is a mandatory requirement. The other option is one-to-one assistance, and this is a mandatory requirement for anyone who requires someone to guide or steady them on the stairs. And that could be due to mobility or other circumstances. For example, people that maybe struggle with heightened anxiety or have a hidden disability. One-to-one assistance means that a member of our crew is assigned to that guest to help them on the stairs. Now, if your guests or our guests, your customers do have a mobility aid, such as a walking stick or a walker, one-to-one assistance is recommended. So I hope that makes sense about what the difference between those two requirements will be. Now, these requirements will be added to the booking, but it's also very important that I stress that if the assistance is added, this does need to happen if a companion or a carer is also travelling with that guest with the needs. Now, look, we know it is extremely unlikely for these situations to unfold, but we must be prepared for every scenario. So we do need to add this assistance because it may be likely that during this time, the carer or companion may not be with the guest as they are travelling. So please do bear that in mind, because we will allocate a crew member to them for this assistance. And those crew members are specifically trained to provide support in place of an emergency, including the use of evacuation chairs. So for you travel agents, the action is that you're going to add these assistants on to a booking. Now, we talked about that online questionnaire, the requesting your onboard needs questionnaire. You will still absolutely do that. And when we go into Polar Online, we will do that. However, the questionnaire is now hosted online. So you can find this at the P&O Cruises website on the accessibility page. Or once a booking has been confirmed, your customers will be able to log in to My P&O Cruises and complete this very important questionnaire. You can still request this, but it will be a link sent to them or details of where they can complete it. So you must encourage your customers to complete that questionnaire as soon as possible. So I hope that makes sense. Can you give me some sort of reaction if this makes sense and you're still with me? Because what we will do is go into Polar Online and show you exactly how you're going to do this, how you're going to guide your customer through our requirements. Good, it's all clear, it's looking like. So far, so good, hey? I like those thumbs up coming through. Let's now go in to complete cruise solution, and we are going to make a booking, but adding on this resource. And this is where our expert in the room, Kirsten Clift, is keeping me on track to know I'm doing exactly the right steps. She doesn't like being on camera. So we get into the sailing search, and we are going to search for our dream holiday. Ultimately, that's what we have at P&O Cruises, but we just want every guest to have the most incredible holiday, knowing that we can make sure they're all safe on board. So I like to go from Southampton, so I'm going to do no air. My home city is LON, as we know, out of Southampton, or flying from London. And I'm going to go around the 30th of August, 2024. So I'm going to search by date. And I've got to go with Britannia, haven't I? My favourite ship. So I'm going to select Britannia and I'm going to save and continue. But look, we're used to just quickly submitting this page, aren't we? Do not go past this page. If your customer does need one-to-one assistance or an evacuation chair, it's in the package and transfer screen that you will add these options on. So we are going to click on package list. And then you will see here, evacuation chair and emergency one-to-one assistance is listed. You can see the status is available, and I'm able to tick add for both of those guests should I wish. Now, just a couple of things to note. If, for example, on a booking, this showed as available, but you were unable to tick, it's not available. You have to assume that is closed, so you would need to find an alternative sailing for your customers. But we can see that both assistance is available on this cruise. Now, if both passengers did need one-to-one assistance, I can just simply add and leave both of those boxes ticked because both will be added to the booking. However, for this instance, what we will do is we will do one passenger with one-to-one assistance and one passenger with an emergency chair. So you can see how to add both on. So for passenger 1, we will leave ticked for emergency one-to-one assistance, but we will untick passenger 2. And we will simply press submit. You'll get this note up here to say the record has been updated. And if that was the only assistance you needed, you'd proceed on. However, we're going to add for passenger 2, the evacuation chair. So for this circumstance, I will untick passenger 1 and I will click add for passenger 2. I'll then press submit. The record has been updated. You can see here on the packages and transfer screen, got the assistance, the evacuation chair, passenger 1, passenger 2, and both passengers are going to have a fabulous holiday on Britannia on the 30th of August. Easy, right? Now, if you do get stuck on this page, we have got a number of how-to guides and also frequently asked questions. And all you need to do is head to Shine Rewards Club and you will be able to see frequently asked questions and the how-to guides, just in case you forget this step. But ultimately, once you've pressed submit, you get to the rest of the booking. And I'm going to quickly make a booking because what I want to do is just remind you how you can request that the details to be sent to your customers for that onboard needs, but also just show you where it reflects on the confirmation. So always fair comparison, and I'm going to choose onboard spending money because I do like to put that towards anything on my holiday. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to go for an inside cabin, save and continue. And I'm happy with the price, so I'm saving and continuing. Now, you will get important notices, and this is where you will want to remember. This assistance requirement has been added. So if you forget that really important step with going into the transfer and packages screen, you've told them how much this holiday is going to cost them, you've told them how incredible our value is, you will get this errata come up on screen, and you just need to remember to go back and add the assistance if they need it. It's very important because once you get past making a booking on Polar Online, you unfortunately are not able to go on and add the assistance. So make sure you do read these notices to your customers, and it does advise there exactly what we need. So we've read those assistance requirements and we are going to click to say we've read them and save and continue. I'm going to make a guaranteed booking because I'm not holding any inventory because lots of people are booking our cruises today. And I'm just going to, what I should have done in the first step, put my telephone number in to get my passenger number. So I'm going to select me. And I will select passenger 2 as well. It's always a good reminder, isn't it? I tell people it's the first thing you should do on Polar Online, but I wanted to get to that next stage. So I've put the past passenger details in. We've got no middle names. You can, of course, service your booking and personalise the booking with the seating requests, the bedding requests, and being open to any upgrade or not if your customer has chosen a specific cabin. But look, if you do need more detail on how to make a booking on Polar Online, there will be a new How to Make a Booking Online step-by-step guide and webinar. But I'm going to click book now because there's just some vital things that we just need to make sure you remember with this assistance being added on. You always get that reminder to tell you that you must add a customer's address, telephone number, and email address. Please do that to ensure your booking is compliant. But I'll show you that in a second. I'm just going to show you here on your package summary. You can see that emergency one-to-one assistance was added, as is an evacuation chair. So a good checkpoint for you. You must make sure all passenger immigration is updated in terms of address, telephone number, and email address. You can just simply add that in and save and continue. All my details are in there. This email address is extremely important, particularly when you are requesting the onboard needs detail to be sent to your customer. So to add, that's onboard needs questionnaire on. Now, the emphasis does need to be on your customer to complete this, but it's good if you are in the habit to be able to request this for your customer or details to be sent to them to remind them. So you're going to click Add Special Request. We're going to go Medical Request and Submit. And then if you scroll to the bottom, you will see here, Request Your Onboard Needs. You click the radio button, you save and continue, and then it will ask you for which passenger. And we know both passengers on this particular booking do need that. So we'll request for passenger 1. Record has added, and then we will request for passenger 2. Easy, right? And that is all you need to do on Polar Online. It is then for your customers to go ahead and complete that questionnaire. But the steps on Polar Online, I hope you found that that is a very easy process. How am I seeing some thumbs up? That is an easy process, isn't it? Good question, Lisa. So I'm going to now move on. That is the process from the 8th of November, from 10 a.m. this morning. It was hot off the press that you needed to do that for new bookings going forward. You must ask every single customer going forward. Now, many of you are probably asking, but what happens now for all of the bookings that you've been making and perhaps some of the assistance has not been added? From this morning, we are emailing all of our guests to remind them of this requirement, to let us know if they do have needs. And then we can arrange the special arrangements for them. Now, due to the volume of guests, as you can imagine, we have 7 beautiful ships traveling 365 days a year. We've got a huge amount of customers to email. So we are contacting them in a staggered approach. Today, we are advising any guest that's traveling between the 1st of December this year and the 31st of December. Tomorrow, on the 9th of November, we will contact any guests travelling from the 1st of January until the 31st of December 2024. And then on the 13th of November, we will be contacting anyone travelling from the 1st of January 2025. And that includes the new winter programme, which of course we know goes until the spring of 2026. Now, as I said, this assistance cannot be added onto Polar Online. So if you do have customers contacting you off of the back of being reminded of these requirements, my advice to you, if they're traveling within the next 6 months, please phone our very helpful partnership help desk as soon as you can. They will then add on this assistance for you or work for alternatives if it is not available. But that's worst case scenario. They will be able to help you if you contact the partnership help desk. For anyone travelling after 6 months' time, we really urge you to utilise our web form. Now, this web form is found on the Contact Us Shine page. And it's a really, really helpful web form. Our contact centre actually get back to you lovely travel agents within a day. So please make sure you utilise that web form. And that does just help us stem some of those calls that will inevitably go into our contact centre. So 6 months, call the partnership help desk. After 6 months, let us know you need to add this assistance onto bookings utilising that web form. And please do not worry if any of your customers tell you that they perhaps have not received an email. It may be because of that staggered approach, and that's due to the volume of guests we need to contact to remind them of this mobility policy. Now, we are here to help, and we know there's going to be so many scenarios that you may need to work through. So please go to our accessibility page on Shine Rewards Club. Check out the FAQs. There's a video on there. There'll be a recording of this, and there will also be a lovely how-to guide to talk you through all of these scenarios. So please utilise that page. But that was everything I was going to cover today before, of course, we get on to giving away some Shine reward points to check how you've been listening to this webinar. But I hope you have found this useful. Angie, is there any questions that myself or Kirsten are able to answer before we move on?
Yeah, so one of the questions was, can you add the resource for both passengers at the same time?
You can if it is the same assistance, remember. So when I demonstrated it, I said if they both needed, for example, the one-to-one assistance, you added next to passenger 1 and 2 on the line for that assistance. If they needed separate, like we did in the demonstration, an evacuation chair and one-to-one assistance, you just needed to do one at a time. Remember to untick which passenger it wasn't relevant for.
Perfect. Could it ever show full and not available? And does this mean that the client cannot book?
It will, if the resource is not available to add and your customer, say for example, does have a mobility scooter or a wheelchair and it is not, you're not able to tick for that evacuation chair, unfortunately it does mean that that assistance cannot be given and you would need to find an alternative sailing.
And can we add this after the booking has been made? I think we covered that.
No, unfortunately not. So do just remember to ask every customer that sits down in front of you or is contacting you by phone. And then you've got that reminder as well at the pricing screen. So if you haven't added it, then you can go back.
So if the medical evacuation chair has not been added at the time of booking, but your onboard needs questionnaire has been completed, will it be added to the booking?
We would still need to know, we would still need to get that added to the resource, to the resource to add to the booking. If circumstances do change, I see lots and lots of messages coming through about circumstances change. As soon as a circumstance change, please let us know as soon as possible, and we can work with you and your customer on getting the assistance that will be needed. We appreciate people book so far in advance. We've just had our winter launch and people are dreaming of their spring of 2026 cruises. If circumstances do change, we know that. Just let us know as soon as possible and we will work with you.
And there's another one. If a client isn't able to use the stairs, would you have to add both one-to-one assistance and the evacuation chair, or just one or the other?
That is a good question. So if it is for if they're unable to use the stairs, we would need to understand the circumstance. So if they are unable to use the stairs because they're in a mobility or a wheelchair, that would be the circumstance we need the evacuation chair. One-to-one assistance is for those guests who are not steady on their feet, or they would need someone to guide them up the staircase or down the staircase. So it would be dependent on their scenario.
If someone has a walking stick or a walker, but they insist they can manage stairs, is this okay?
I would really ask them to urge themselves that they need to add this assistance. If there is any doubt, I would recommend that assistance is added. Ultimately, this is to keep every single passenger on our ships safe. And we must make sure we are not denying anyone boarding and having the holiday of a lifetime. So we have to know about these requirements as soon as possible.
I've also added the link to our web form a couple of times in a chat for those of you that do need to use it, to add that resource if your customer is traveling after 6 months. And I will also add in the link to our accessibility page, where you'll be able to find all of our frequently asked questions, the web form, the how-to guides as well. I've just put that in a chat for you. So have a good read through and have a look through our how-to guides as well, because it'll give you that step-by-step process.
Another question that's just popped through, and I did cover this, about assistance. If someone's partner is traveling with them, is that enough assistance? It's such a, an unlikely scenario. However, if those two guests are not together, people do go off. My husband will go off on our cruise and I'll go one way, he'll go another. If time that there is an emergency and those guests are not together, the partner may not be able to assist that guest that needs help on the stairs. So please, if a carer, companion, partner, friend, however you like to say, is traveling with a guest with these needs, they must add the assistance on. That is really, really, really requested. One question about the walking stick or walker. Whilst it's not mandatory, it's recommended. It's really being realistic about how many stairs they may have to use to get them to an evacuation point or a muster station. So if a guest does struggle to walk, fair distances with their walker or walking stick, then please add that assistance. Now, I've also had confirmation just while we are on this webinar that anyone who's already got a booking and they've submitted their onboard needs questionnaire, if they've requested the right assistance, you don't need to call us. That will have already migrated over onto their booking. So please don't worry. You don't need to contact us now.
What happens if the client has already booked, but now we add this, the facility is no longer available, so they can no longer go on their cruise?
That's where our partnership help desk will be able to help. So we know that we're asking a lot from you to make sure you are fielding all of these questions from your guests. If you need to add this assistance on to any booking, then you will just need to call our partnership help desk if they're traveling within the next 6 months, and we will get that added where there is availability. If there isn't, we will work with you to work on alternatives, but please be assured we'll do everything we can. And we do need to do this to make sure everyone is as safe as possible on our ships.
I think there's also a question, I think, more around your onboard needs questionnaire. So we said that now guests will be able to log into my P&O Cruises.
Yes.
Which they would need to do when they're checking in for their cruise, to print their luggage labels and e-tickets and things like that. So it's a new and easy way, an improved way, I think, for them to be able to access it. And then they know it's been submitted and we've definitely received it. So I think if you have any customers that want to handwrite that questionnaire and send it over to us by post, we would advise that moving forward, best thing to do is to go on my P&O Cruises. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, it is easier. It's a quicker way of doing that, and you know, you are able to help them, but ultimately you can log in. Yes, you can log into my P&O Cruises as soon as the booking's made, and the onboard needs questionnaire will be there. It is for that customer to fill that out.
Just remember to add it into the booking so that it appears on there.
Yeah. We do know lots of you know, do help out those guests that perhaps don't have, you know, maybe are not so tech savvy. You are able to help your customer on their behalf, but just make sure all of the information is absolutely correct. We don't want to have instances where we don't know about specific things, and it's just about being honest. You know, sometimes our guests just need a bit of a helping hand, and they might feel a little bit uncomfortable in telling us that they need these this assistance, but ultimately we've got to know this. We are wanting everyone to have a safe and fantastic holiday. Is there any other questions?
A guest is sailing in February and they're bringing a mobility scooter, and they have already sent in your onboard needs questionnaire. The agent will not have to call us to add this.
As long as all of that detail is added to that onboard needs questionnaire, then that will have migrated over. And that's a shout out to my colleague Sam, who's also on this webinar, just giving me the hot off the press news.
Got a question. Where is the form on the personalizer of my P&O Cruises?
So when you log into my P&O Cruises, you'll be able to see lots of sections to personalise the holiday. There is an onboard needs questionnaire. It's very easy. As soon as you see it, you will be able to log in and do that.
We have a question. If they have booked an accessible cabin already, will the assistance be automatically available?
I'm going to just double check with my colleague Kirsten, who is our expert.
So if an accessible cabin has been confirmed, then they need to ensure that the onboard needs questionnaire has been completed, and we will follow that same process. So that will automatically have been migrated over, and the evacuation chair will be checked in that circumstance.
She hates it when I do that. But I like to make sure we've got the most up-to-date information that is correct for all of you.
Then can we recap one last time? What is the difference between an evacuation chair and one-to-one assistance for those that joined a little bit later on?
Hi, Angie Norton. Just to, you don't need to submit via email anymore. That questionnaire is hosted on my P&O Cruises for bookings that have already been made, and you can find it online at P&O Cruises, the accessibility page. Right. The difference for those of you who did join late, I'm just going to run through again for you. It is vital that you do capture any guests that need either an evacuation chair or one-to-one assistance. An evacuation chair is a mandatory requirement for anyone who's unable to use the stairs. So they cannot go up and down the stairs. And that could be because they've got mobility or other circumstances. But it is particularly true for those guests who are wheelchair bound or use a mobility scooter on board. It's absolutely mandatory that that evacuation chair is added for those. One-to-one assistance is a mandatory requirement for those guests who need someone to help and steady or guide them on the stairs. A member of crew is added to that booking. So what will be is if anyone is struggling with heightened anxiety or has a hidden disability, one-to-one assistance means that that crew is assigned to that customer to help and guide them on the stairs. And I have just heard that there's a glitch with the form at the moment. It will be fixed on my P&O Cruises. So those of you who are logging into my P&O Cruises and cannot see it, it will be there. We are just working on that. We've also added evacuation assistance for guests who have made us aware they are full or part-time wheelchair. So they don't need to call us either. So anybody that is in a wheelchair that's already got a current booking, they don't need to let us know because we have got that information. So evacuation chair, unable to use the stairs, in a wheelchair, mobility scooter. One-to-one assistance is those guests that perhaps struggle with the stairs. They can walk up and down, but they need someone to guide or steady them. And they would get a crew member assigned to them to help them. It's very important that even if a carer, companion, friend, husband, you name it, is traveling with that person with assistance, this is added on. So I hope that's made that clear for everybody that asked me to do that. And yes, you do still need to complete the onboard needs questionnaire. You add the resource, so you add the evacuation chair, you add the assistance, but then you also complete the onboard needs questionnaire. And look, this is only in the case of an emergency evacuation. This is only in the most unlikeliest of situations. But like I said before, we have to be prepared for every scenario, ensuring our guests are having the most fantastic time, but in the most safest way possible. So I cannot capture that enough. This is just to make sure everyone is safe on board, and it is in the unlikely event of an emergency. Angie, any further questions for me?
I think we just kind of want to remind agents that it's the guest responsibility to fill in your onboard needs questionnaire, because they know the exact needs and what requirements they need to let us know of. And you've got that shortcut on Polo Online called My Cruise if you do need to log in to maybe just go through with your customers where they can find your onboard needs questionnaire.
Perfect.
Everything.
I hope this has helped, and I hope you do understand how important it is for us to capture this detail. But it is in the unlikely event of an emergency. We have to be prepared. Thank you very, very much for your time, your support in helping us get our requirements for your customers. As always, myself and Angie are extremely passionate about making sure you've got the most up-to-date information. So I hope you found it useful. Drop us a line, let us know. Thank you ever so much. Take care of yourselves and stay dry in this very rainy, miserable Wednesday. Take care of yourselves. Bye, everyone.